Based on everything we've discussed today, which is kind of intuition, decentralization, shifting perspectives, how do you think people can apply this to their everyday lives?
So what can I do for these people? Firstly, congratulate them. Um, Good move. Secondly, if you want to work with trance, if you want to interrupt some patterns, hypnosis, a lot of people think that's really weird. I don't want my mind to be controlled. Go and check out how I do it, what I do. You can see that at Transform Hypno with a C. And I've got a whole lot of explanations of hypno. I've got online downloads where you can, some of them are free. You can go into a hypnotic trance in the privacy and the comfort of your own home and see what emerges out of the unconscious. So that's one way is, spend some time with yourself as well, because regeneration begins at home. And on another level, if you can find some time for local projects, just a little, right? And local networks of other people who are doing things. You may not have much time, but you may have a certain skill, or you may have a connection to someone who has some time or a skill. So just reaching out, seeing what excites you, and just listening and responding, seeing what's going on in your local area, and seeing how that might hook into what we're doing. So, for example, if you've got a kid in school and you'd like to plant some vegetables there, you'd like your kid to be a bit happier because they're bored inside, and you'd like them to have an outdoor classroom, talk to us. We may be able to help you out with something there. I guess rest in the knowledge that you've made a good decision and that the world is rewarding people who are working for it. I believe on a deep level that there are forces of regeneration which are much older than the forces of extraction, right? Our livers regenerate. Our communities regenerate. Read Pyotr Kropotkin, who talks about how mutual aid is a factor in evolution that goes deeper than cooperation. I find him very inspiring. He talks about how insects share the contents of their stomachs with each other. He talks about how the habits of mammals are geared towards mutual aid, how the habits of traditional communities, medieval guilds, all of these kind of things. And he notes that when the forces of control retreat, people go into collective land ownership, collective work. All of that stuff happens naturally because you don't need to learn how to do mutual aid. You need to key into something which is deeper than humanity itself. Yeah. So we're back to this thing about intuition. If we drop that whole game, we don't want to be part of that game. We release the powers of our destiny, let's say, or what Jung would call our libido, what drives us towards the next stage in our own personal lives, which is also part of our collective human journey.
What kind of mental shifts do you think people need to be able to make that shift into more autonomous living lifestyle?
Bayo Kamalafe, again, he says something very wise. He says, things are urgent. We need to hurry up and slow down, right? There are horrors going on all over the world, right? It feels like we need to respond to them. I think on one level we need to begin to adapt to the world that we are living in. The world is going to throw all kinds of problems at us. I believe there is a Chinese saying, "Get used to the taste of bitter," right? I think one thing in terms of the mental side of it is, can you approach your neighbor and talk to them, right? Can you approach? I think shyness is actually a real difficulty when we're trying to create connection. And you look on the train, everyone's on their phone, no one's talking to their neighbor. If we need to connect, we need to connect. That means looking at people, that means asking them about themselves, that means being curious, right? So I would say that, like, engage with curiosity. See what happens.
That's great. And if you had like one thing to pick, one thing that we've talked about to pick to help people to break free from that conditioning, what would you suggest that be?
I'm thinking about radical kindness. And I'll say that a lot of people in this kind of world, let's say, have had a wonderful experience with psychedelics. My background is in psychedelic research. I've been involved in ayahuasca for a long time, and my own lineage, we had a rule, which is that you can't invite people, and that you can't get messianic, and you can't cajole people to go along, right? So if you have, this applies to psychedelics, but this applies for other things as well. If you have had a revelatory experience and you've seen the light, let's say, whether that's through psychedelics or breath work or just a walk in the woods, whatever it might be, let's not become like boring Christians on the street corner trying to get people to go to church, right? If you want people to come on the journey with you, then the wisest thing to do is demonstrate through your the impeccability, that's too much, through the way that you move through the world, through your kindness, and through the charisma which automatically comes when you do start moving kindly through the world, that this is a way that people can be, right? And if they go, oh, how come you're so interesting? You might say, well, let me tell you about my fungal friends. But so I say that, like, it's one thing to we often confuse the means of our revelation with the meaning of our revelation, right? So mushrooms isn't for everybody. Hypnosis isn't for everybody. I hate to say it, but regenerative agroforestry impact network may not be for everybody. But whatever it is that you've done that's got you to a place where you are seeking a new way of being, you can model that in your own way of being.
Excellent. Just before I hand it back to Milan, I guess the final thing was you've mentioned your Hypno website, and I think you also offered, I think, kindly to offer our members maybe a little Hypno session in terms of helping people to, that are wanting to make some transition. So we'll look forward to receiving that in due course. So thanks for that.
Yeah, super cool. I do collective hypnosis, and we can do that over Zoom as well. And I'm really excited about designing one for Mycelium Hub.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Look, thanks for the conversation. It's been absolutely riveting. And your work connects so many areas. It's like self-awareness, collective intelligence, and everything in between, history, and there's a lot of areas that you have done a lot of deep work in that we haven't even touched on, so we might be asking you back in at some point. Just a few questions before we end the podcast. If listeners take one action after hearing this, what should it be?
If listeners take one action, what should it be? I'd say pattern interrupt. If you find yourself reacting in a way that you don't like that you're reacting, pause, take a deep breath.
It's an exercise in self-awareness.
Yeah. Be yourself. And if you find that that's not quite cutting it, then I can't recommend highly enough doing some hypnosis.
Amazing. And so, for those, you've mentioned different websites and projects. You've authored 2 books as well. If someone wants to learn more about your work, where can they find that online?
My own personal website is dannynemu.com. That's got loads of talks, podcasts, research. One of the things we didn't talk about today was drugs in the Bible. So I've published peer-reviewed journal articles on psychopharmacology of frankincense and myrrh and those kind of things. And I also own the website drugsinthebible.com.
Okay, great.
So you can find your way to me there. I've got a Substack, which is called the Snake Tail Digest. It's currently got 3 sets of articles on there. One of them is about ADHD and the appalling scientific research into Ritalin, and 5 traditional medicines, 2 of which are Ayurvedic, that treat the cognitive style, which is sometimes called ADHD. Another one is the story of my grandfather's great uncle, who was a major rabbi in Jerusalem at the time when the Zionists arrived and tried to excommunicate the Zionists because he considered them the greatest threat to the Jewish people that they had faced in many centuries. And he was a very interesting autist, irascible, extremely pedantic, brilliant scholar.
Wow.
And so that's also a kind of investigation into the place of neurodiversity in offering a different perspective, and what happens when you don't listen to neurodiverse people when they're saying this is a big threat.
Yeah. Relevant with what's going on right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's another article in there which is about, it's actually the RAIN Manifesto. So have a look on there. And then the RAIN website is rainreforest.org, and my hypno website is transformhypno.com.